Hello, this is cjhoyle. Today is Sunday, February 9th, 2020, and I'm standing here in front of the Scarborough War Memorial. Today I'm riding my Green Machine bicycle, which on the front of it has an action camera mounted, and in this video I'm going to be riding west and giving a tour of Danforth Avenue here in Toronto's East End. So the reason I decided to come all the way out here today to film this video is because I wanted to show Danforth in its entirety. So this is the very start of Danforth Avenue where you merge onto it. If you're coming in the west direction, you merge onto it from Kingston Road. And Kingston Road's a fairly busy arterial road, and so is Danforth, and I have every right to be on this lane here, but as you get away from the city center, drivers are a little bit impatient about sharing the road. That's really annoying because there's two lanes of traffic here, and that vehicle certainly could have gone around me without honking. But I won't let it get the best of me, and I'll keep riding. So yeah, we are currently in the former borough of Scarborough, which amalgamated with the city of Toronto in 1998. I should mention this road that we're on is called Danforth Avenue, although in Scarborough there's also another road that's called Danforth Road. And I'll talk a little bit more about that road as we get further along. Over on the left, we're going past the high school. That's Birch Park Collegiate Institute. Birch Park CI. And what you see here of Danforth Avenue is very different than what we'll be seeing closer to the other end of Danforth, where it turns into a very urban main street. So today the temperature is right around 0 degrees Celsius. We got a little bit of snow in the last week or so. I filmed the video last Saturday and there was almost no snow aside for a few snowbanks on the sides of the road. But there was some snow, I think, on Wednesday and a little bit on Thursday that fell and has sort of stuck around. This road here is called Birch Road, and for the cycling community, Birch has some significance. In fact, maybe I'll just point the camera over here a little bit. It's kind of hard to see, but this road actually had bike lanes for a very short period of time, and they were installed, and not too many months later there was a mayoral election, and Toronto elected a man named Rob Ford. And Rob Ford, part of his platform and one of his first things he did after getting elected was having equipment come out here and remove those bike lanes from the road. So what I was trying to show you is you can actually see on the pavement where there was, a line of paint that was painted on Birch that had been torn up. So that was kind of a sad day for people who like to ride bikes and like to be safe on streets, because to make cycling a viable option in cities, you have to make it safe for people to do it, and you want to put more bike lanes in. You don't want to be taking steps backwards and removing the ones that you already have. And Rob Ford was mayor for 4 years, and really not very much progress is made. Thankfully, aside from Birch and another road called Pharmacy that had their bike lanes removed, to my knowledge there wasn't too much other damage that was done in terms of taking steps backwards, but there really wasn't a whole lot of movement forward either. We did get the first installation of bike lanes on Richmond and Adelaide during the Ford years, thankfully. All right, so we're just about to go underneath a railway underpass. I believe these tracks are for the CN's East line from Toronto, basically the tracks that the lakeshore east of the GO Transit's GO train takes. So if you're riding the GO train, you get on at Union Station and you're going in the east direction to Scarborough or Guildwood, Rouge Hill, Eglinton, Pickering, Ajax, Whitby, Oshawa. I believe those are the tracks that you ride on. The next intersection we're approaching here is called Worden Avenue. And as this car ahead of us drives away, you should be able to see a little bit of a view of the skyline up ahead of the downtown Toronto. As we move from the suburbs of Scarborough to the city, you'll start to see many more tall buildings. And you can see that this road has already transformed quite a bit from that very suburbanish sort of a boulevard with the big, median in the middle. Is now transforming more into city. Now, this is the intersection right here, right ahead, which is, you'll see if you turn right, that would be Danforth Road, and the road we're riding on is Danforth Avenue. So this is the intersection of Danforth and Danforth, and this area is actually called the Crossroads. The Crossroads of the Danforth, because it's where Danforth crosses itself. So the story behind why there are two Danforths in, the Toronto area, it goes back to around the beginning of the 1800s, when a person with the last name Danforth, his company was contracted to build a road that connected Toronto to the Trent River. So Trent River, that's over sort of beyond Prince Edward County on Lake Ontario. I think about 100 kilometers or so from, actually further than that, about 100 miles I think from here. So this company was contracted to build this road, again, really early 1800s. You wouldn't really call it a highway, it was just a road because there weren't, the vehicles that were using it were powered by horses. And that road, of course, was named after the contractor that made it, which was Danforth, so it was called Danforth Road. Now that road didn't last for very long, only a few decades, and it had fallen into disrepair. And I guess rather than deciding to continue to improve it, they decided that they would build a new road instead, and that's the road that's called Kingston Road, which is in fact the road where I started my video. And Kingston Road is known now, or was known at sometime as Highway 2, or the former Highway 2. That road we just passed there was Pharmacy Avenue. That's the other one that bike lanes got removed in the beginning of the Ford years. So yes, Danforth Road, I guess it probably got left behind, and little bits and pieces of it still exist along the way, including the section that we passed back there. But for all intents and purposes, it was replaced by Kingston Road, which went even further than the Trent River. It went all the way to Kingston and beyond, I believe. So now, why did they create Danforth Avenue? We explained Danforth Road. Well, Danforth Avenue was a road that was built from, basically to connect the Don River to the start of that Danforth Road. So it was kind of an extension that was made, or not really an extension, but it was, just an avenue to get you there. Or at least that's what I understand from what I've read. So we're just about to approach and cross the Victoria Park intersection here. Victoria Park Avenue. Probably should have stopped there. over on the left, that shopping mall is called Shoppers World, and it has an interesting history. Before it was used for shopping, that site was an automotive manufacturing plant that was built in the 1920s, and it was first built, and in fact the building that you can see, the main building up ahead on the left, that was the manufacturing facility built by Ford Motor Company for building their vehicles. And a couple weeks ago I made a video where I rode along DuPont Street, and in that video I went past another building that used to be for the Ford Motor Company, and this one was built later than that one. So this was kind of their bigger operation as automobiles continued to you know, move along, become more popular. And at the time this was built, this was very much considered to be out in the country, so, well, not very much in the country, but it was, you know, less expensive land, so they could build a much bigger facility here. So that building remained a building that was used for manufacturing cars for Ford, until eventually Ford built a much bigger plant out in Oakville, which they still occupy, at which time this building here was bought by another automotive manufacturing company, which ended up becoming AMC, and they continued to manufacture cars here up until the 1960s, when it was ultimately turned into a shopping mall. So now you can see we've changed from, again, being really rural out in the, not rural, but being very suburban, to now being a lot more urban with, you know, shops and restaurants all the way along here. We've traveled a little bit more than 3 kilometers so far. This road that we're about to stop at here is Dawes Road. So far today it's been kind of cloudy. I'd really been hoping that the sun would be out today, but maybe it will a little bit later in the day. So Danforth is not an area that I come to an awful lot, but I do come here, you know, several times a year. I live sort of on the western, I live pretty central, but I live more towards the left side, or the west side of Toronto. So I come out here periodically for various different things, but I'm not here, you know, on a daily or a weekly basis. But it is a really nice area to come through, and I enjoy visiting. Danforth Avenue and the surrounding area is often short formed to the Danforth. Which I guess might be confusing considering there's 2 of them. One of them is Danforth Road, one of them is Danforth Avenue, but there's only one that's considered the Danforth. So the intersection we're approaching up ahead is Main Street. And if we were to turn to the left here, we would see the Danforth GO station, which is a train station on those tracks that we crossed under earlier. And that's the last stop before you get to Union Station if you're heading in the west direction. If we were to turn to the right here, you would see the Main Street subway station, which is a subway stop on the Bloor Danforth line. So underneath the ground here, there's a subway train, there are subway tracks that go along this corridor. They're actually kind of a little bit over to the right. They're not actually underneath the street. They're actually sort of behind those buildings that are on the right. And Main Street Station is the first subway stop that's actually right along this corridor. As the subway continues going east, it actually sort of curves north. The next stop after Main Street is Victoria Park Station, and Victoria Park is kind of north of Danforth. It's not, the Victoria Park Station is not right on Danforth. And I guess that's because the higher concentrations of population in Scarborough are further north than that suburban area that we were riding through at the beginning. So yeah, you can see a fair bit of development here. There's a building going up over on the left. A little bit behind, further behind, there was a big hole in the ground where I assume they'll be building a building at some point. This road we're about to cross is called Glen Avenue, and if you were to turn left, it's called Patricia Drive. I like to try and call out some of the intersections as we're going along, even if there aren't any significant facts that I can share, just for the benefit of people that like to follow along on Google Maps and things to get a sense of where this is being filmed. Over on the right back there, we passed the Danforth Mennonite Church, which I once attended a ukulele workshop in the basement of many years ago. Over on the right, there's a store called the 12th Fret, that green building. That's a music store that I've shot at before. In fact, one of my ukuleles that I have played a lot came from there. Alright, we're just about to cross Woodbine Avenue here. And Woodbine Avenue has a bike lane on it that was installed just a few years ago. It's a protected bike lane. And this building over on the left that says Firkin on Danforth, that building is built, that's a condo building over top of that restaurant. But that building was once a hardware store for many years, and it was also the site of one of Toronto's biggest fires, at least in the modern era, and it turned out to be an arson fire. And there's, people that were involved in it who have been convicted of second-degree murder, but it was, a very, very bad fire that caused a lot of damage. So the last video that I posted on my channel was my demonstration of how to remove rust from chromium plated surfaces on bicycles. That's actually a topic that I made a video about many years ago, and that original video has more than 500,000 views on it. So it's a topic that certainly people are interested in, and that video was made on some equipment that was a lot lower quality than what I have for making videos today, and I've also feel like I've gotten better at making videos since then, so I decided to revisit that topic. So yeah, those Woodbine bike lanes were a really nice piece of infrastructure that was installed, because in this end of the city there's not a whole lot of bike infrastructure, unfortunately. Particularly, there's not a whole lot of bike infrastructure that goes north-south, so that does really play a nice role of connecting things. In fact, there's a really nice loop that you can do. If you're starting from downtown, you can ride east along the waterfront trail until you get to Woodbine, then you can ride up Woodbine, and then you can connect up with the Taylor Creek Trail network, which leads, through a ravine and down into the Don Valley Trail, and then you can get yourself back to downtown again in this really nice loop. I've done that a few times. It's a good loop that you can do. Otherwise, if you're just riding on the waterfront trail, then you just sort of ride in one direction and then you turn around and you see the same scenery again. It's kind of nice to do a loop instead. Just going to wipe off the camera. I can see there's a little bit of moisture that's been come up from the top of the road. Gotta get around this bus that says not in service. So you may have noticed that Danforth does not have a bike lane on it, and that's something that the cycling community is looking to change. In fact, right now the City of Toronto is doing a complete streets study, and it includes the entire area from Woodbine all the way to Broadview, which is where I'll be finishing this video. So this whole area is under study, and they're looking at making it a complete street. And what a complete street means is that it accounts for all modes of transportation, which includes, of course, cars, pedestrians, transit, which on this street is underground, and most importantly, or not most importantly, but equally as importantly, cycling, bike lanes. It's always seemed like a particularly good candidate for bike lanes because the road is quite wide. I mean, look right here. You've got your parked cars over on the right. You have your main traffic over on the left, and you've got this extra lane where I'm riding right now, which, you know, could be for bikes. In this current configuration, it's not exactly ideal. I mean, right here is not too bad, but usually this lane is a little bit narrower, and it means that you're riding right up beside where the car doors are, which is a no-no for cycling, because car doors can open really fast and, you know, can be really dangerous. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of road width here to play with, and they just got to build it. I think the political will is there. So yeah, I'm really hoping as part of this study that we'll get bike lanes in the near future. I did actually attend a public consultation session about that process, and the city was sort of projecting that, you know, that this might happen, it might be built maybe in 2021. But the cycling community is really pushing for them to act a little bit quicker than that, and potentially installing some kind of a pilot here in 2020 if possible. I'll provide a link in the description if you're interested in going and reading about the process that the city is going through right now on this part of the Danforth. Up on the left, there's a building that has a marquee over the top of it that says Allenby, and the name of the performer playing is Tim Hortons, and Circle K and Tim Hortons. I believe that was an old movie theater, but it's now occupied by those retail and restaurant businesses, Circle K and Tim Hortons. But I think it's nice that they have maintained the outside aesthetics and didn't just make it look like any other Tim Hortons with their usual signs. Over there on the left, you can see there's another new condo going up. This road here is Greenwood Avenue, which another road that has a subway station. If we were to turn to the left, it actually has bike lanes on Greenwood, and if we went a little bit kind of in the south direction here, we'd go past the Greenwood Yards, which is where subway trains for the Bloor Danforth line are worked on. I actually went one year. There was every year there's an event called Doors Open Toronto, where various different public facilities are open for the public to go and, you know, get behind the scenes tour. And one year I went and had a tour of Greenwood Yards, which was interesting. The Bloor Danforth line uses the trains which are the older style trains. They're called the Toronto 1 or the T1 subway cars, as opposed to the Toronto Rocket cars, which are the newer ones. So yeah, my trick for riding on the, or my technique for riding on the Danforth right now before there's bike lanes is to ride, yes, to ride in this little sort of gap between the parked cars and the driving cars, but to stay over towards the left side of it and make sure there's lots of space on my right side in case there's a vehicle that has a door that opens in front of me, so I can, you know, take evasive action to get around it, and also keeping my fingers really close to my brakes in case I have to stop really quickly. Up ahead over the road you can see a banner. That banner says "Welcome to Greektown." So this part of Toronto is known as Greektown. In fact, there's actually 3 of these banners that you go underneath of along this section. One at the very beginning of Greektown, one in the middle, and then one at the end. So we are now being welcomed to Greektown. And I have a red light to wait for. You'll notice that some of the street signs, you can kind of see it over on the left. There's a street sign that's written in Greek with the Greek alphabet. So parts of Greektown also have signs that are written in Greek. This area is home to, you know, a large Greek population, although, you know, historically they were not the original settlers of this area, I don't believe. But, you know, Chinatown downtown, that was not originally settled by people from China or Hong Kong either. It was, you know, those groups just sort of migrated to those areas and sort of, you know, eventually became the most dominant people to occupy it. So yeah, I decided to change things up a little bit and film something out in the East End. Last week I filmed a video which was far out in the West End, and a lot of the videos that I filmed have been out in the West End, because that is, of course, closer to where I live. But Danforth is a road that I've been wanting to make a video about for a while now, so it's good that I've finally gotten the chance. So I've been talking about a lot of positive things that have happened here on the Danforth for the most part, but unfortunately back in 2018 there was a shooting that happened here that was really tragic. I won't go into too much detail about it, but it really was an isolated incident. This area is very safe, so is the city of Toronto, and you know, the reason that event was so horrific was because things like that really don't normally happen here in our city. Toronto is a very safe city, and so is Danforth, so I don't want to discourage anybody from coming here in fear of that, because very isolated incident. This street we're crossing here is called Carlaw Avenue. And this here is Logan Avenue. Now, an annual event that I like to attend here on Danforth is Bells on Danforth, which is a group cycling ride where a big group of, you know, people get together and they all ride down Danforth. It's a topic that well, not a topic, but it's an event that I've filmed videos of. I like to just, when I come to those sort of group rides, I like to just get ahead of the group and get my camera out and film everybody riding past. It's a good way to sort of get an attendance count of an event like that, as well as, you know, to get a record of who was there and, you know, what the day was like and everything like that. So I filmed at least 3 different years of Bells on Danforth rides from that perspective. Alright, now we're going past underneath the last banner for Greektown, which says "Thank you for visiting." This is Chester Avenue that we're just crossing. That's, again, another subway stop. There's a lot of subway stops along the Danforth. The subway stops quite frequently. An annual event that Danforth is better known for than the Bells on Danforth that I like to go to is an event called Taste of the Danforth, which is where they close this road down, and it's a big street festival, and they specialize in the cuisine of the local cuisine of the area. I've never attended Taste of the Danforth, so I can't say much more than that. This road here we're about to cross is called Plater Boulevard. Plater was the name of, I think, the name of one of the families that once occupied this area. The neighborhood that's kind of north of here is called Plater Estates. So I'm guessing it was their estate that was broken up and formed into all these subdivided lots. And we're very close to the very end of Danforth Avenue. Danforth Avenue ends when we get to the Don River, but it's been connected with Bloor Street in the main part of Toronto. And that was connected when the Prince Edward Viaduct was built. And a few weeks ago I filmed the video coming in the opposite direction, where I filmed and showed Bloor Street East, including the Prince Edward Viaduct. And I ended that video just up ahead of this next traffic light. And in that video I mentioned that I think having built that bridge really did help this area and this end of the city continue to evolve and helped it thrive. Back there on the left we went past a music venue called the Danforth Music Hall. That's an old concert venue that's been there for a long time. A number of years ago I went and saw the band Great Big Sea perform there on their 20th anniversary tour. And we're now just about at Broadview Avenue, which is a north-south street that follows the eastern bank of the Don River. It's a nice road to ride on, one that I'm sure I'll cover someday in the future. And after we get across Broadview, we've now got a protected bike lane which takes us across the Prince Edward Viaduct and connects us with the rest of the city of Toronto. So lately I've been trying to film more of these riding videos around different areas of the city. So if there's an area of Toronto that you'd like to see made into a video, I'd love to hear your suggestions in the comment section below. Well, anyway, that concludes my tour of Danforth Avenue here in the east end of Toronto. If you watched all the way to the end of the video, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.